asana practice is relatively new. We saw like the first postures like Pincha Mayurasana for excess fat, that's Shleshma Kapha, starting to like appear around the 15th century. And that's when the asana practice kind of picked up, is like when the British Raj was in India. So it's just like this kind of a collaboration between the British and the Indian culture. And of course, asana was just that as is. It means as is in a meditative seat. So I would say I teach a part of yoga. I like hatha yoga too because of the ha and the tha. There's more like that raja yoga aspect to it, where there's like burning the tapasya. So, and then kriya yoga is really just, it's not like people do the nauli kriya where they're like breathing in and they're doing all the like, cleansing practices. But what kriya means is the last three limbs of the niyamas, which is tapas and then ishvara pranidhana, svadhyaya. So in that backwards order, tapas, svadhyaya, then ishvara pranidhana. So it's like, it's hard when that question comes up, because it's like, I only know this much of yoga, like maybe even this much of yoga, and it's like this vast. So it's like, how do I share what part of yoga I've studied under? But if we were to name it, it would be like vinyasa and hatha. But I just teach a part of it.
All right, here we are again. Welcome back to OneAnswer Yoga. Yay! We have a very special guest today. We're so excited. I'm going to let Quentin introduce you, and thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a great conversation, and I am going to be listening along. I have not gotten to meet this guest, so I am just as excited as all of you to find out more about her.
No, yeah, I mean, Vanita has been so kind to me, so much like of a mentor to me, like especially over these last few months, but I would say like roughly over the last year, like just even when she's not speaking to me, just her example, and how she really in certain ways like exemplifies like to me what like a person who like does the practices and cares about it like represents, and like flaws and all too, Vanita is just beautiful, and so I was like, okay, who would I want to have like to be on here to kind of share more of their story and just their life. Like many of you guys know, like I'm primarily just do this. I either podcast and I teach, and like I dedicated my time to this, but Vanita is more senior. I see Vanita as more senior to me in that regard. And especially like in this Denver area where like, I haven't been to all the cities, but I've been to many, many cities, and like the yoga culture, the mindfulness culture, like in Denver specifically is legendary really. And like, so to know someone like, Vanita, and kind of like learn more about you is like really an honor and a privilege to see like how you've navigated this space. And, especially where you're from versus sort of like the Western kind of yoga culture, and sort of like how you sort of also represent, like you're trying to be more authentic so that we in our generation can get more of the benefits. So anyways, yeah, just like sort of, I would say just sort of like, what are some of the highlights in your life that have led you to kind of dedicate yourself to what you're doing now? And yeah, you can start like with where you're from, where you're born, and go from there.
Yeah.
Sure. And I just want to say, like, it's funny that you say that you look towards me as a senior, because in my experience, I look towards you as an equal, and I feel like we're on the same mission and we have the same ideology around how we want to share yoga. And
Thanks.
that's what really united us together, is like, like we started Kali Prana, and Quentin is just as much as an owner of it, and it's just an idea I had to like dismantle hierarchy in yoga spaces and create something that we're not using like or building new studios and new spaces. We're using already existing spaces that have plenty of opportunity, and just looking for those opportunities to just like be a floating system, like a floating yoga business where we all benefit. And so all of the proceeds are they're donation based, and they go directly to the teacher in the space. So I just really wanted to create something that, dismantle that like ownership, and then like, okay, here's this trickle down system. Well, that just removes sovereignty. That's not yoga in any way. And it's looking at the teacher as an extractive force, and not like a force of nature. So as we all are. And so it's like reclaiming that seership and like that doership, and like that's what we are as yoga teachers, is like the yoga of action. But then as we act, we see, and as we see, we act. So I just think that, we're just on the same like twin flame energy. We have lots of like Libra, Aries astrology between us, and
Yeah.
we're really like a spark together. So I just like wanted to name that. And I was like, I never really I didn't know that you thought of me that way. And it's been
Yeah.
really cool that, like you're also doing these like amazing things like podcasting. I've never really done it in this way, and this is incredible. Like,
Yeah.
so keep
Yeah.
going,
Please,
this is
please.
cool.
Thank you.
And there's
Thank
something
you.
else that I wanted to name, and I totally spaced on it, but we're here now.
No, that's
The
We'll come
trick.
back to it. Don't worry.
It
I'm
will
sure
come.
it'll pop back up.
It will come back. It will come back. Um, yeah, and so you said like where I'm from, and so I
yeah.
grew up in Dallas. I lived there for about like 20 years. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. I named this thing. I love that you mentioned the flaws too, because I have kind of like a colloquial nature to me that makes it relatable. And I think that like I don't try to like sit on some pedestal, and I just share yoga from like a street view. Like
Yeah,
here we are. We're spreading
yeah.
the word. We're spreading the word, we're spreading the movement, and we're just honestly like it's about love at the end of the day. And like, you know, people right now really need that, and a lot of people are feeling like that there isn't love in the world, right? And
Mm.
like what are we, behind every ill action is fear. Behind that is like just more love. It's just we fear what we don't have, and so that fear turns into anger, sadness, greed, envy, right? And
Yeah.
so we're trying to unmask that fear for people, and you know the five
Yeah.
pushes.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yes.
yeah, I grew up in El Paso. I was 5 years old when we moved. My mom was a doctor, and my dad was in stats, so he got a job in Dallas, and then we moved and jumped ship from El Paso to Dallas when I was about 5. My parents had their like honeymoon first job situation in Goa, or not Goa. I'm trying to remember the name. Oh yeah, I'm spacing on the island that they're from. It was not good. They only lived there for 2 years, so it was, yeah, I don't know why it's not coming to mind. But they lived there, like it was white sand, white beaches, but I'm just not remembering the name of it. My Vata brain is Vateg. An air element, you guys know. And for anyone listening, you know. But yeah, so they moved, and then, they were really trying to assimilate. I know that Quentin brought up this word, cultural assimilation. I'm really interested in that word, and it just brought up some things that I had to do in order to assimilate or be part of the United States and the culture, and that left me like between, like a foot in the West and a foot in the East, and a little bit fractalized in a sense, and also leaving my language behind was really hard. So my parents are both Telangana, or like these, they're from Andhra Pradesh, but they speak Telugu.
Okay.
And that language, I was speaking it when I was 5. So I went from El Paso to Dallas and started speaking I started speaking in Montessori in El Paso around 3 years old. And I would get a letter home every day. Like, they didn't understand what I was saying. When she asks for water, that she says Nilu. We don't know what that means. You both really need to switch to English in the household so that you can assimilate. And so they both switched to English, not thinking of, like the repercussions of that, and how that would impact me. And now I have trouble speaking Telugu. It's like I can't access it, and it's really painful for me to not be able to speak my language, and I'm trying to reclaim that, but it's just harder because I can understand it, but I've noticed something about me is that I need to be immersed in the culture. My brain switches from, like, if I'm in
Yeah.
the United States, it'll be in English. If I'm in Costa Rica, I'll start speaking in Spanish. If I'm in India, it'll start coming through. But it's like the location is how that language flowers inside of me. And if I'm not immersed in the sauce, then I'm not the sauce. So, yeah. And after living in Dallas for about 20 years, I got sick of it. I went on a camping trip to Colorado Springs with my backpacking. Um, it's this thing called Classroom of the Earth,
Mm.
really intelligently designed program in middle school. And
Wow.
so they had this program where every year, first through eighth grade, you go to a national forest and you camp overnight. Every
Oh, wow.
year, the day length would grow. Like, so in first grade, it was 1 day day trip. Second
Wow.
grade,
Wow.
overnight. So they really started to educate us to like live with nature, camping, tying knots, Girl Scout, Boy Scout kind of things.
So
Yeah.
cool.
And then we had our last trip in Colorado, in Colorado Springs and Pikes Peak. It was a 2 week backpacking trip. And so we had like 50 pounds on our backpack as like 55-pound kids. Like 127 miles over 5 days. It was incredible. And I fell in love. I was like, how is this place? How has no one discovered Colorado? It's just magic. There's rainforests when it's raining. There's, lakes, there's rivers, there's dry parts, there's wet parts, there's all kinds of like just magic. Dragonflies, like I just fell in love with this like kind of we call it in Sanskrit like a dry climate, or like Arizona. I really like that heat with the dryness. It's really unlike me as an Indian to like that, and like I do love the cold too. So it was an adventure, and my eyes just got sparkly when I saw Colorado. So I was like, I need to be here one day. And then fast forward to college, around 21, I met Nate, and he's from Colorado Springs.
Mm.
And I've been dating Nate for 10 years now. We're fiance and fiance. And we're gonna get married potentially this end of December. Yeah. So
Yay.
I
Beautiful.
know, I'm excited. It's been 8 years in Colorado, and I haven't looked back since then.
Wow.
Yeah, I moved here for yoga actually. There's a studio that I used to work with called Black Swan. I learned from teachers in Dallas, still really close to my teachers in Dallas, but they also, um, Claire and Noah don't work for Black Swan anymore. They started their own. It's called Yogi. It's like beach yoga, beach town yoga in Florida. And
Mm.
so yeah. As it was great. It was a great starting point, but I think that as I started to deepen in philosophy, my yearn and my heart was looking for something deeper, and it just didn't align at the end there. And I spent 3 years growing the community and teaching the way that I teach, and I just love to keep teaching, and so I ran over a couple times in class, and um, as did a lot of teachers. So there's some politics
Yeah.
behind that. We don't have to get into that, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just not aligned at the end of the day, and that's why I was on my way out. I was letting my classes go, and then like at one point they were like, "This doesn't feel like this is the right place, and we're releasing you," and I was like, "Yep, this is not the right place," you know. So
Mm.
and Quentin shares that kind of like background too, and I think that's where we found each other, is in that like twin flame, searching for something deeper, looking to philosophize, and like that's what we find interesting in yoga, and like the philosophy is everything. If you want to asana practice and you want to be good at it, it's philosophy. It's about like finding that steadiness and ease in the posture, but then also using the sutras, right? Like Shabdanyana Anupati Vashtushanyo Vikalpaha, like 1.9 on imagination. Like there's no real object, like imagination has no real object, but when you imagine things, it can be a tool for compassionate action, right? So anything that's built in this world is built from like that compassionate action. Not always do we know if it's going to be helpful or not, right? But like,
Amen.
the wrong action, wrong use of imagination is worry. So that's just been my journey. So much more to that, of course,
Yeah.
but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to explore them. with you.
Tell me, what sort of lineage did you train in? What kind of yoga?
So, that's a really tough question, right? I teach because we like to what am I saying? Partition and compartmentalize in the yoga world or in the West specifically, but I say that I teach a part of yoga because there's, the vinyasa. V means to place in a sacred way. But when we think about vinyasa in the West, we think about breath to motion classes, right? But that's not really what it meant, right? Krishnamacharya did not design it in that way for it to be breath to motion. And of course, like, asana practice is relatively new. We saw like the first postures like Pincha Mayurasana for excess fat, that's Shleshma Kapha, starting to like appear around the 15th century. And that's when the asana practice kind of picked up, is like when the British Raj was in India. So it's just like this kind of a collaboration between the British and in Indian culture. And of course, asana was just that as is. It means as is in a meditative seat. So I would say I teach a part of yoga. I like hatha yoga too because of the ha and the tha. There's more like that raja yoga aspect to it, where there's like burning the tapasya. So, and then kriya yoga is really just, it's not like people do the nauli kriya where they're like breathing in and they're doing all the like, cleansing practices. But what kriya means is the last three limbs of the niyamas, which is tapas and then ishvara pranidhana, svadhyaya. So in that backwards order, tapas,
Yeah.
svadhyaya, then ishvara pranidhana. So it's like, it's hard when that question comes up, because it's like, I only know this much of yoga, like maybe even this much of yoga, and it's like this vast. So it's like, how do I share what part of yoga I've studied under? But if we were to name it, it would be like vinyasa and hatha. But I just teach a part of it.
I mean, all of us are just teaching a part of it, right? Yoga is so vast and such an incredible system. And if anybody says they're like a pro at all of it, I would really be questioning their sanity.
Yeah.
Right.
I was so fascinated. I mean, for you, coming from this culture, it must be so interesting to watch how yoga has developed in the West, right? I talk a lot about this because obviously what we now think of as yoga is really this Western interpretation of yoga. And it's fascinating. One of the things, I was just at this Yoga Alliance board meeting last week, and we were talking about where yoga is going. And we were talking a lot about DEIAB and inclusivity and accessibility in yoga. And we were really reflecting on the fact that yoga, traditionally, that is not included in how yoga was transmitted, right? Accessibility is not something you think about traditionally in yoga. It was taught to a very small group of people. It was not made for the masses. It was not something that was spread through, I think that's one of the mistakes that people make, is they see an Indian and they think that they're obviously going to know yoga.
Right.
We're like, no, there's a lot of Indians where they could never even access that, because there were teachers in India who absolutely would not teach a woman. No way. No how.
Yeah.
They would not teach anybody who was not of a certain class.
Right.
So I'm just really curious for you, like how you feel. I know I'm putting a lot on you right now, Vinita, but how do you feel as like a female with Indian heritage, where you sit right now? Because yoga is transforming, whether we like it or not. It has now become something that is owned by the world. And part of that is taking its essence, because at its essence, it does have inclusivity, belonging, accessibility. That is not how it's necessarily been treated or trained in the world, but that is at its essence. And so how is it like for you as a woman, as an Indian, as a American, as a yoga teacher, as a young person in the world today? I really love what you were talking about, like taking this hierarchy out of like the teaching, like, oh, there's like these advanced teachers and young teachers, and like, oh, you can only teach in these classes, and like there's just a lot of stuff that was created
Yeah.
that has nothing to do obviously with the essence. So
Yeah.
yeah, talk a little bit about that, because I think you probably have a really unique, beautiful perspective on all that.
Yeah, and I love what you said because there are negative things in both cultures, right? So then we're here in the West, but then also like and we're idolizing the East, but the East is also on their own train of misappropriation and violence and clinging to the caste system as a teacher, right? So I had a Bharatanatyam teacher, classical Indian dance. I was like, oh my gosh, he speaks my language. I found him online through my mom's singing teacher. And she said, yes, I know this individual who's come down from the Pandanallur lineage, which is the same lineage as me. There's 4 different lineages in Bharatanatyam. And I was like, great, this is exciting. He can speak to me in Telugu. I can nurture my Telugu. So fast forward into a couple sessions, I noticed that he was like on his phone checking it while I'm dancing. And then there was a moment where like we went to India and we visited him, okay? And then he, mentioned that because he's in the Kshatriya caste or the Brahmin caste, and that he, is of elite, essence. And I was like, and then he was almost like sharing with my mom that we should be giving him gold, right? So there was just a little bit of like this crook energy, and I was wondering like, why are there not very many people that he's teaching? What is going on? And he's such an amazing dancer too, knew his stuff backwards and forwards. But there was a bit of that, extractive essence. And of course, I can't really blame him because it's coming from colonialism. It's coming from the Aryan culture invading and then instilling this like hierarchy system where there's like, the farmers, the lower caste, the Vaishnavas, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmins, right? So it is interesting to have that. And I just wanted to name that dynamic exists here and there. And there's this like, I was reading this amazing book. I know I'm not really answering your question, but I just wanted to touch base on this. And so I found this book at the Ayurvedic Institute, and we had just been talking about Hinduism. And I opened this book. I just found it in the library. They were giving them away. There's a big section of books that they were just giving away. So I found this book, and I opened it, and it fell to the page talking about Hinduism and like, like how it's not a religion. And the Indus River Valley is Hindu, but there was a culture. Let me see if I can find the page exactly so I'm not butchering what the book is saying about Hinduism. Let me find it. It's almost there. So, yeah, found it. Hinduism. Okay. So, Sapta Sindhu. It was 7 rivers. Sapta Sindhu. And so the Iranian culture couldn't pronounce that correctly, so they said Hapta Hindu. So then Hindustan was born. So it's a name of a land of which nothing was mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Nowhere was it mentioned that Indians were Hindu. It was an external force that put the label on Hindus. But what they would refer to as to the people was Gentu. And what Gentu means in Hindi is just people. It's just people. So there wasn't a label. There wasn't like this box already in India when we were writing these like ancient texts from, the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna and all the way to, the Puranas and the Vedas. Nothing was mentioned about Hindustan until this culture invaded, right? So it says here, but there is no such label or designation in the works of Hinduism itself because the name Hinduism is itself a foreign label. But why do I still use the same word Hinduism here? It's only for the sake of convenience of the readers. If I were to use any other new name, they would be confused, more so the foreign readers. So I feel that there is like a confusion. So in that confusion, we must name things that aren't actually named, right? Which is then again taking away the essence and labeling, which is not yoga. So Hinduism has been labeled as a religion, but really this whole book is talking about it as a science. and how the East and the West borrow from each other's culture, and in that process are giving away part of their culture through assimilation. So that is something that I've experienced as a teacher in the West, is like, okay, there's a Western way of teaching this. I went to Black Swan and I did my 200-hour there. And I just wanted to see what it would be like to learn in an institution that is all about like marketing, Instagram, like, if you know, fashion, like your image, your external image, and just see what the world was like. And, you know, like in my training, they said, oh, you don't need to use Sanskrit. All the students in the room really wanted to know about Sanskrit. They wanted to learn about the names in Sanskrit. However, you know, they presented it as an optional thing because that's what their teacher taught them, right? And so here we are playing the telephone game. And in my experience, I've had to teach myself. And so I went to inquire to the Ayurvedic Institute. I went to go study with Dr. Lad, who has been teaching, you know, Ayurveda bringing, you know, this knowledge from the East to the West, and like doing it for 40 years, trying to bridge the gap between the East and the West and heal that, you know, that rupture that's happening. And so I went and I learned Sanskrit, and I learned all these things that I can like infuse in my classes, which I had already been doing because I taught myself. And so to learn from an institution like that was really amazing, because I could bring and bridge that within my own heart and heal some of the wounds that I was feeling inside, from not being taught the things that I deserved to learn, right? And so that's what we do wrong in the West. And so my mission has been carving this path that is non-existent, and that has been, it's brought up a lot of I would say demons in the world around me, and with my fellow white practitioners that are teachers. And it's created animosity, it's created like jealousy, it's created anger, it's created fear, it's created all the things that, you know, I really just got excommunicated, you know, from like,
Wow.
from teaching the
That's
way that I teach,
intense.
because I was teaching sold out classes. I sold the most memberships, even without like the code that you put in. You know, most people
Yeah.
just word of mouth, like, oh, I bought this membership here because of Anita. You know, it was just a sharing, like, you know, like within the grassroots, people thought that I was the manager. And so, of course, managers don't like that. Like, and so that happened at both BSY, I'm just going to name it, Black Swan in Denver, and also at Yoga Pearl. And what happened was I was selling these classes out, and the managers were getting fearful. I'll speak to Yoga Pearl because it happened in Boulder, that I was trying to steal the clients and take them somewhere. And I was like, okay, I was just handing out my sticker. I don't teach anywhere else. It's just a sticker that I drew like this beautiful mandala on. You can color on it. And one day I was teaching a sound bath, and I put the stickers out on the counter because I was like, okay, I'm ready to like share about my classes here and my schedule, and this is where you can find my information specifically, right? So I had those stickers out on the counter, and I was handing them out, and one girl was like, I want to know what your schedule is like. Here's my sticker, right? And so
Yeah.
I come back from setting up my bowls in the room. It was a sound bath, and I realized that my stickers are missing, you know? And I was like, okay, where are they? I asked the manager that was there, where are my stickers? This woman is asking, you know, for my schedule. And she put them underneath the desk. And I said, okay, why are they here? I had them out on the counter, you know? And she was like, we don't do that here. Like, you know? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. I just need to give her my sticker, you know? So I gave her the sticker. And then, and then, and then later after my sound bath, she told me and starts like, you know, really coming in on me. And she was like, we don't do that here. You should listen to me. I'm the manager, like, or authoritarian, like, pride, chest puffed, started talking down to me. I start crying right in the middle of my both sound bath. One was at 12, one was at 5. And like, I'm just shook. Like, you
Wow.
know? And she's like, we don't market personal, private things here, you know? And like, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, let me talk to Aaliyah, like the owner of the studio, about this. So then she texts me and she's like, she's the manager. You need to respect her. First of all, I had no idea she was the manager. So no one told me that this woman, Tara, is the manager. So it was just, yeah, that happened. And she was like, you know, it really sucks she was telling me how my actions, like sometimes it sucks for you to do bad things. And then, you know, like you have to sit with the repercussions of what you've done. And I was just feeling so gaslit. I was like, I'm growing your studio. I have two sound baths right now that are sold out, And so, Aaliyah, I was like, hey, Leah, I'm feeling really like, cornered and, just like inappropriate behavior is happening right now at the studio. And I texted her that, and she's like, okay, that's not okay. Like, let's talk on Monday. It was a Sunday bath, a sound bath, two back to back. And then they let me go because she had a problem with me.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
this is been my experience is like to come in powerfully and to like ready to support the community and then them think that I'm in it for the money. And I'm like, okay, why would I drive an hour to this place to spread the knowledge of yoga for $40 like when I have other opportunities and other businesses that I can grow. Like it's just yeah, it's just the projections and like when I was teaching in their yoga teacher training too, same things came up. Like the students came to me and they're like, hey, I'm so glad you're part of this training. The manager feels like a tyrant, honestly. Like this is like they would say that to me and I was like, I don't know how to hold this. It sounds like you're not being led by the right energy and you're also not learning the depth of yoga and your manager doesn't know anything about Sanskrit. She pulled me aside after one of my classes and she said if people wanted to learn about yoga philosophy, they would go to Naropa next door. And I'm like, people can't
Like, I don't know if I'm in the right place.
yeah,
I
people can't
might have to
afford
leave. Yeah.
8,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to go.
No, no, no. I'm just saying, like, that's what I would have been if
Okay.
I. This might not be for me. Like, I might. Maybe I need to go next door then. I guess. Like, what?
Right,
But
like
then we're talking also
people can
about
afford that.
accessibility, right? I love the fact that you're bringing up the cost because that's
Yeah.
one thing also we talk
Mhm.
about at Yoga Alliance is these costs and how do we encourage, so our new motto is more yoga, better world.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just did this huge rebranding about more yoga, better world. And how do we really stand by that when there is, we talk about this at Yogaville too, right? You can come and get your teacher training at Yogaville. It's an incredible experience. It's a month-long program for your 200 hour, right? We're not
Mm-hmm.
talking about 500 hour. We're talking 200 hour. You come, you do an immersive program, you live here for a month.
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And
Yeah.
how many people have the luxury
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
of leaving life for a month
None.
and going to do this training?
Right.
So obviously we have other options too, and there's certainly other ways you can get trained in integral yoga, but if we really want it to be accessible and inclusive and available for people, then and particularly okay, so the people who are going to get priced out of it traditionally are strategically, economically suppressed communities.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, if we want more people of color into our classes, and if we want to make sure that people of color feel like they belong in the yoga world, then it also has to be financially accessible for them.
Right.
And unfortunately, so much of the yoga world in the Western construct is business oriented, right? Yoga is now a business,
Right.
which is
Business.
pretty antithetical to
Right.
the
That's
core
what I
of
keep
yoga.
hearing. Yeah.
So the West has done I mean, I'm so grateful. Don't get me wrong. I'm deeply grateful that yoga is available for so many people and that people have spread yoga and there is so much yoga. I always say any yoga is good yoga, right? Like, but, and with the movement towards it all being a business, we are really losing a lot of the essence. And also we're basically creating like a caste system, just like was
Yeah.
created in India. We're just creating it again.
Totally. We're creating it again. It's so true.
I.
And it's like telling people how they should teach, right? Like, oh, make sure you have 4 chaturangas in your flow. And it's like, okay, well, the students are telling me they don't want any more chaturangas and they just want me to teach the way that I teach because it's creative and inventive. And it helps them like get out. Like when you do so many chaturangas, you go on autopilot,
Bro.
And that's like what we're teaching them is like, okay, if we get them under control, they're in autopilot, they don't have any autonomy, then they won't say anything. Like, what are we doing? What
It's
are you?
also like
Yeah.
it can be really damaging. Like we're seeing so many people in the Western culture who have taught these, so many of them now are getting hip replacements, knee replacements, shoulder replacements because They were
overdoing it.
not thinking like we cannot overdo our joints like that safely. And so now so many of them have to go into recovery, or so many of them are, I mean, restorative yoga. There's a reason why restorative yoga and yin yoga and these things are having a huge, upswing, because people cannot do that and it's not necessarily safe. You're not listening to your body
Yeah.
if you're requiring certain things in a class. And so
Right. Right.
it's so challenging. What a
Yeah.
challenging time, right?
Yeah.
I was
It
I
is.
was gonna I was gonna say something too, like Vanita and Rada, that like really came to mind. That's you guys beautifully articulated. Is like there is just like this belief that we know what everyone wants. Like we know that they don't want to hear all that. They don't want to hear all that mojo. Like we don't want we're Americans, you know what I'm saying? We speak one language, we don't want to know Sanskrit cuz like that's not interesting. And then it's like, to Rada's point about the cost, it's like, like especially with me in my position, it's like, it would be very, very, very difficult for me to like. I remember my boss said, if you take more than a week off of work, then we don't need you. You'll come home to no job. You know what I mean? It's like, without COVID, I wouldn't have really even been able to have the space to do like a teacher training. And so like I think what is really dope is like, like what you're saying is like maybe we should have like mini trainings or like or try to like I don't know. Like, what's interesting, Vanita also runs teacher training, so I'm curious to see like how you approach this like topic. But like on one set, like for me, it was like I couldn't get my teacher training for a while because it's like I have a house, my wife isn't working, I'm supporting her. I have two dogs that are basically 200 pounds of dog. I'm 200 pound of dog, like or I was at that time, like like how am I, and we got clothes to buy. Like, how are we? And so,
Yeah.
so what you notice, like, what the deeper point I'm trying to get at is like, a lot of the women know, and a lot of the teachers, no offense, no disrespect, are women with boyfriends or they're married that have the space and the availability to like go out there. And so you're kind of hyped, and that's sort of what you're seeing is a selection of um our yoga, because of the financial situation of what it even takes to become an instructor. Like you're sort of seeing this auto selection, but then you're also getting that similar perspective. Like everybody's different, I know that that's so true. I think that we're trying to represent that, but also in the, say, the general Western culture, like the type of person who can become an instructor is going to, like you said, bring the good and the bad of that culture with it. And like, and I'll even say this very specifically, like, maybe for that particular subset of culture, chaturanga, chair, these powerful postures might be what they need, quote unquote, or what they might feel like is necessary to counteract the life, like that sort of that energy. But like for a guy like me, like you might not even like I had my last class on Thursday. He was like, "Wow, we didn't even do down dog. I've done down dog like every single class I've ever done. I've never even thought you couldn't even do down dog in a class." And I'm like, "Yeah, you can." He's like, "That's not what we needed today, fellas. Like that's not what was in the
That's
air.
so great.
Like we didn't need to do a chaturanga today. Like you don't need to do chaturanga every day." Or when you're doing, even when you're in yin, you don't have to do pigeon every single damn class. I mean, I've been in pigeon. I've done 100 pigeons this month, and like so, But all that's to say, like um, just to kind of like reinforce what Vanita's saying, it's like I was at this meeting the other day, and I was the only male teacher there out of like 30 instructors. I was the only black one there too. And that's also Denver's fault. I mean, if I was in Atlanta, it'd probably be different. But all that's to say is like you can see how like it really does help to sort of have like a fullness there in the teaching experience. Like I say one love at the end of my classes. I got a Caribbean woman who's like my mom's age. He's like one love, like everything, just like, and that's just like a little thing where like just for her, like we have that connection, and for you, like, and I think that's what we're trying to. That's the benefit of the inclusion is that like I think there's so many teachers that
We lost you.
are Indian in heart. I'm sorry, yeah. I think there's so many of us that have the capacity to share it, but would benefit for like a more
Yeah.
accessible approach. So
So we've
But
seen this. Okay, so I'm so curious now to hear your story, more of your story, because now we've seen a problem, right? So now we're like, okay, this is not for us. This is not for me. I'm kicked out of it. Some people would be like, okay, well, I guess that's it for my yoga career.
Mm-hmm.
You did not do that.
mm,
I didn't.
No, you said, well, then I'm gonna go out there and create what I'm seeing that's missing. So talk to us about like what that process was like for you and also what you have done to address some of these things that you're seeing.
Oh man, when there is a will, there is a way. I It was intense when I decided that I was going to create my own thing. I got let go from the program at the Black Swan, right? They told me like on 12/13 of 2024. So I had led 4 teacher trainings, really trying to focus on the philosophy, bring on this nuanced kind of thing, talking about the gunas. No teacher training that I've ever known of, has ever done that before. And it kind of broke the students in a way because like they're here to receive whitewashed yoga, right, in an institute that is whitewashed, and here I am trying to present these things in a way that I have never done before, that no one has ever led me in, that I never got trained on. When we were hired to be yoga teacher trainees, there was no guidance. There was just, hey, here's this giant packet of teacher handbook, like, and that's just go for it. I trust you, and that was the education. Not even a single group meeting on Zoom. Just go for it. Just trust yourself. And like, and then at the end of the day, when I failed, or failed because the students weren't with me because they weren't ready, I think, for the deepness of the philosophy because of the institution of the design of of what it was, they
yeah,
couldn't receive it, and it broke their brain. And so who's to blame? The sheep. Like all of this was to blame. So when there wasn't a syllabus, me to blame. I'm like, okay, I'm not the lead. I'm not the person creating the syllabus. I'm not the person that's supposed to send the emails to you. But the blame goes on me because it's when they look at me, I'm Indian. I come from this culture. It should be me. However, I'm getting paid $40 an hour, right? So to teach, and I'm not getting the nutrition and the that I deserve for building the entire program, especially the yoga philosophy section from scratch. Like it didn't exist, And so when I was told like that I was noticed that my hours were getting cut in yoga philosophy, the telling was Yoga Alliance doesn't require, this is a quote, Yoga Alliance doesn't require us to teach yoga philosophy. It requires us to teach 75 hours of alignment and asana. And so I got curious, So after I got let go, I kept that sentence kept ringing in my brain. I was like, no, I think Yoga Alliance is trying to do better work. I don't believe this. I'm just being told something just so that I can, manipulate, spin the narrative, and place blame back on me.
I was going
So
to say that is, yeah, let me
it's
just
so wrong.
for Yoga Alliance and say that is not the
It's
case.
not the
Yoga Alliance is very dedicated to making sure that people are learning philosophy. And as a matter of fact, when you all see the launch of the new credentialing and everything coming out, you will see even more of a commitment to this. So
Yes,
that's
that's
just
my
a plug
goal.
for Yoga Alliance.
Yes, and I'll tell you because my experience with Yoga Alliance was so pure and so amazing. I almost I think I cried after my first meeting with Emmanuelle. She has been my go-to. She's a French lady, amazing human being. And so I was like, okay, getting fired on the 13th, that's a sign because 13 is my lucky number. I also got hired on May 13th, 2022. So that number is also important. I have like notebooks this long of tracking dates. I'm a dates person, so I keep in touch with those because they tell me what my purpose is and my dharma. So, and I got let go that December on the 13th, and then I was like, okay, we've recorded the number, let's move on, let's think about this. I get on a call with my therapist, and she was like, okay, have you thought about doing this yourself? You have a great presence, you are Indian, you're coming from this lineage, you have purpose behind it, you have a why, like go do this on your own. I was like, how do I make this happen? She is like, and I was like, I need this money, I need this money because I got, like a giant chunk of my paycheck that I thought I was receiving is just now poof gone, right? No consideration for that either. No
yeah,
like back pay, no nothing, just pull the plug. Also, mind you, I was on all the posters that my body in a triangle Trikonasana pose was on all the posters recruiting yoga teacher training. They didn't take that down and change it. And so when the new group came in, they thought that they were getting taught by me. Many of them signed up because I was part of the training. They didn't let them know that though. So by that time, there was no refund policy, nothing. They just went with it. They didn't explain it. They just, nothing was said about it. And a few of those students reached out to me and they were like, that was tragic. Like, you were supposed to be part of that training, and I was really disheartened at the way that they did that. But then, they're young, they're little babies, like, they don't know how to speak up against that. They're just there, right? So they show up, and then, Vanita's not part of this training. Sorry. And then just keep going with it. And so I was like, okay, my therapist was like, go do this thing. So in the middle of training for my first bodybuilding competition and being in Ayurveda school full-time in Asheville, and
bodybuilding. She didn't mention that, the bodybuilding part. That's another fun side note.
Like, you think you're just gonna execute? You think you're gonna do this? Well, watch me. Watch me. I'm gonna build so much of this heart because I have a message from God. I have this within me, and I'm supposed to do this work. So no matter if you, and that too. Like, they know that too. On my last meeting, they were like, you're special. And I was like, is that supposed to be a backhanded compliment? Like, the way that I was treated and how I was talked to was just atrocious. And I have this pattern. So when I went to Ayurveda school, I have Mars in Cancer in my business house. And so I'm in like tears on my birthday, mind you. And this day was also the flood. A hurricane hit us on my birthday. We were living in a bus on our friend's, like a person that I trained with, her mother's lawn in the middle of Asheville, somewhere in the mountains. And Nate is like, I come home to like a full like tenderloin and everything, and that's all we had in the fridge. So this is my birthday. I'm finding about my astrology. I'm finding out that I'm like, okay, this is like so divine, and then the flood, then we're in the middle of a hurricane. So that's another story. But we wake up to like just almost being like, we were stuck for days. But anyways, so that day, my astrology teacher pointed out, he was like, everyone was like, let's see Vanita's chart. We know it's, like, we just want to see it. And so we saw this chart, my astrological Jyotish chart, Eastern, has 5 placements in Libra in the first house. So it's like body, charisma, character, athleticism, all of that placed strong. And I have a Digbala, which is like directional strength. So what he was saying, my astrology teacher was saying, is that I know exactly what my path is before it even arrives. I have actually had visions of this house that I'm living in. 8 years ago, I saw this house on a mountaintop. And I saw that it was a collaborative creative space. I was a recruiter, a professional recruiter at Insight Global at the time. No idea. I lived in an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment for $800 in the middle of the city in downtown Dallas. I had no idea I was going to be a yoga teacher. And then I see this vision at Shambhala Music Festival, and I see this house that I'm living in, and it message tells me, hey, it's supposed to be a collaborative space. You're borrowing the land. You're gonna have support. You're gonna have help from your family, and you're gonna make this mission happen. And I was like, I'm supposed to be a yoga teacher. I'm recruiting in the middle of a firm. Like, I love yoga, and I've thought about this a lot. But the message just came through, and it was almost like a breeze. Like, it just hit me like a breeze. It was so light and so generous and so full of love. I was like, this is supposed to be a collaborative space where people are supposed to like take off in their careers. And so my best friend, who's Shannon, she's an artist. Her career has taken off, and she's like so able to support herself. And she lived here for 2 years. It is coming true. I'm living the Dharma that I saw. And so, okay, it's like
I love that. That's so powerful.
Yeah. It's
And
so
goosebumps.
powerful. Right? And so I was like, okay, here's this institution. I want to teach yoga teacher trainings. I actually told the people at Black Swan that I wanted to do that. So I think that's why I got let go, right? Because it's like a threat. So I create my own, they wanted to teach yoga a certain way. And like, I was creating ripples, and like, they called me a disruptor. I was disrupting the system that they had so perfectly packaged and delivered to people. Like, here, this is what we want to brainwash you with. And I'm like, here, this is how you get out of the brainwash. And that's not okay when you're trying to create something that is like a packaged thing. And so I create my own, right? I'm waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning. in Asheville. I'm typing up my manual, organizing it. What do I want? What do I want to see? Using the knowledge that I'm receiving in Ayurveda school from Dr. Lad, using that inspiration to recultivate and like put that through the lens of what I've been experiencing in the yoga world. Writing up this manual, go to class, 4 to 5 hours a day, go to train, do cardio. By the time I would get home, it would be 11 o'clock. I'd wake up at 5, rinse and repeat in the middle of a cut. So I was like 115 pounds doing this stuff, shedding weight before my show. And then I come back to Dallas, right, or Denver, right? Start teaching classes again, doing really great. I do my, there was one class that I led over time because I had never been in prep before. And so I had prep pain. There's no clock in the studio. And the music was, I time my music and my flows to the music, right? And the music was going in and off. So I just turned off the music, right? And so I ran class about 10 minutes late. And then the person after me was all like stomping around pissed outside. And so, you know, like they have to show up 30 minutes before class. But it doesn't affect anyone because no one really shows up to the next class
Yeah.
15 minutes before. It doesn't affect anyone. However, because my class is packed, it created this animosity, right? So like I love to talk to my students after class. I love to create conversation. And when somebody's trying to come in and get grounded and get clear, they're all like flustered. They don't have their yoga in their mind. It's just Vinita did this, so I'm going to call, you know, the owner of the studio and tell on her. And so that happened enough times that, you know, like it was turning into a problem that she didn't want to deal with, even though I'm doing so well in the studio, right? And so like one thing that I said when I got released on my video on IG was, you know, the rain doesn't just stop raining when it, like in an hour, right? When I'm going, you know? So I was like so burnt from studio classes, I was like, never again am I doing this, right? So I get the...
I'm just going to jump in and say, I think, you know, in defense of studio classes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good that they've
There's
done
a lot.
in the world. And I just want to put it out there because these owners, I understand what they're struggling with, and I understand the business that they're struggling with,
Totally.
and that they need to create structures, and they need these classes to go on time, and they need all these things. So I just want to say, I don't want to knock any business owners out there who are providing yoga classes. We're all so grateful for you.
Yes.
And-
And like, let me mention something to that because
And-
it could be-
That does not resonate with many of us.
yeah.
And that is really something that we're seeing as like a need for going deeper, a need for delving into the philosophy, a need outside of that structure, because that's a great intro for a lot of people. I'm really grateful because people were not finding yoga before that.
Yeah,
And so
right.
it's a wonderful intro for you to get involved in yoga. And there's something so much deeper. And I think a lot of people are seeing that and they don't know how to grasp it. So it's so important that people like you, Vinita, are also stepping outside of that system and saying, hey, we're grateful for that system. It got you in here, got the people exposed. And we want you to know that there is something much deeper out there that you can go into, and we'll provide you with a deeper experience of yoga. So it's, you know, your struggle is not only your struggle, it's a common struggle that I hear across a lot of people who are trying to really step into the deeper side of yoga and teach the teachings of yoga, the philosophy, the science of yoga, not just the asana of yoga.
And how do you do all that in an hour?
I mean, come on. It's
That
it's
was like,
In a structure of like in and out and in and out and in and out. And so that's, you asked that question, how do you do all of that in an hour? You really don't. And so that's why the studios are never going to be structured in such a way that they can provide this for people. But thank goodness for the other people who are out there who, if you want to have a longer class, like integral yoga classes, straight up, like we had a big problem because our classes naturally were 120 minutes. Because you have to do deep relaxation. You gotta have like 15 minutes of deep relaxation. You can't fit that into an hour class.
no.
And then we had to try to shrink our classes into an hour, and it just, you miss so much.
I miss so much.
And so but you can't go teach integral yoga at a gym if you're going to teach an hour and 20-minute class, or you can't teach as a studio if you're going to teach an hour and 20-minute class.
It's nail on the head. And they knew that, right? That the deeper, even though they didn't do it beautifully and like there was harm involved in it, That's what they were really trying to say, right? Is like, this is like institute, this is not the fit. It's not the fit anymore. I've grown past this and it wasn't fitting, right? So it makes sense. Like, and like to like, you know, like not just like, yes, my experience is real within me, and also their experience is real too. Like they have an institution, they have a business, they have, you know, goals, objectives, they need it to end on a certain time, there needs to be breathing room. I get all that, right? And it's, you know, like just letting me know that I would get fired for doing that would be nice. Not just pull the plug. Like, hey, here's how we can, you know, like nurture you into this. Here's a clock on the wall. You know, if our speaker system, no ownership of that, right? If our speaker system has been fluctuating for 3 months, I've been texting about this, right? Then own that and not just continue to place blame on me. What can you improve on as well? Why am I not successful at ending this class on time? What is happening here with the speaker system? How can I nurture my teacher to see a clock right in front of her so that she can pace herself, right? Instead of having to, I hate looking at my phone. I hate looking at my I like those are some really key things that the previous manager, when I was talking to her, actually my best friend, her and I are still best, like really great relationship. When we were in the studio together, thriving, you know, because she did it from a compassionate place. She did it from a I see you and you're valuable place, not I want to get rid of you so that I see more value. I seem more valuable place, right?
So when
So
you had the opportunity yourself then to do
yeah,
this, right? Because now you're seeing also the
yes,
complications of running your own space and
yeah,
what that looks like. How were you able to solve these
these issues, right?
issues?
Yes. So what's really interesting is like the students never had a problem with me going over. It was always the teacher, right? Like after me, even though it didn't really matter, right? So like what I did was just keep doing me, you know? And so I built the institution, right? It got approved on 5/13 in 2024. Hired on 2020 in 2022 on 5/13, approved through Yoga Alliance on 5/13. Really incredible, right? So I was like seeing on the treadmill, I kept seeing 111, 111, 111, and like on my way to prep and bodybuilding. And I was like, what is this number? And I realized it was the Trinity. It was Shiva speaking his language to me. I kept seeing these incredible, like trippy, like sober, psychedelic things like Shiva, Ganesh, like it's just like I was like on a treadmill just doing the arena, right? You're just in dhyana. And I'm just getting like, you know, like this really dope. I remember this one visual. I was on the treadmill and it was like a brick wall with Ganesh on it. Like just like street style, like kind of energy with Ganesh. And I was like, okay, that just flashed through my brain. And then I won my show and I got 111. Like I got a first place in true novice, novice, and open. First show in bodybuilding in bikini, you know, and then
Congratulations on that.
thank
Congratulations.
you. And I was like, I feel like something, you know, like when I do something like this happens. Just,
Yeah.
but really, what I had, it was an opening. It was a 111. It was an opening into transformation, into growth when I got let go, right, from the studio. Like 2 weeks, oh, mind you, on International Yoga Day, um, on 6/20. My show was on 6/8, and then I got let go on 6/20. So it's just some really interesting balancers, right? Like life likes to do that. And so then I was like, okay, well, I have this approved school, same like 1 month ago, and my students. One thing on the call when I was getting let go is like, you didn't tell me about having Black Swan yoga students in your yoga teacher training. I was like, oh, okay, so this is what it's about. It's me creating this new institution, and you're worried that I'm going to pull people from, you know, your institution and into here, which she was right, because the students were asking me that are finding my class at BSY, but you don't own the students. And Colorado has a non-compete compete clause. And there were also, I felt comfortable doing that because there's also another teacher who leads yoga teacher trainings at Yoga Center of Denver on our schedule. So I was like, okay, but Caucasian woman, but I'm Indian, so it's a thread, right? Because I'm coming from the culture. So I start this institution. I have 8 people. A lot of them are from the Black Swan community, but they came to my class and they signed up for a membership because of me, right? So are they their institutions, you know, like whose people are these? They're just people. Like they're just people. Like, and I'm holding space for that, right? So started my thing, and then in the middle of it, that's when I got fired. So they got to see like cultural appropriation in live time. They got to live through my experience and see what it did to me and how it affected me, and how, like having a newly designed cancer flow, teaching it on Thursday, and the next day on Friday just stripped from all the things I worked so hard. I finally got all the people that I wanted to teach, like people that really wanted to learn from me. Like that, those last few months, everyone in the room came excited for class. Boisterous laughter before class, conversations happening across the room. Like it was like we were just in this fun space. Like I was teaching like a class of big kids again. And like that's what hurts the most, is that I can't go back like and teach that the community that I spent 33 years building, who finally resonated with me, where I finally felt seen, and to have that stripped, and like now I'm starting over, right? And so that's where I am. And luckily, people understand and resonate with my mission so deeply that it's just spreading. I'm not doing a lot of, marketing for it, but containers are full every year. And I'm like, should I take a break? And then I can't because everyone's like, hey, are you leading that yoga teacher training again? And so like the first year I had 8, the second year I had 12, that was my cap. This third year I have 13. I was like, okay, I can wiggle in one more, we built these, like Nate's my partner, incredible builder. He can do anything. Like he's built an ATV out of junkyard parts. It goes 100 miles per hour. He had to put like a little, he's a fun time. Yeah. So we have yoga decks in the backyard because my mission is to teach in nature, to bring people back to their relationship with nature, because all things in yoga are relationship. And then we teach on the roof, and then we have these new benches now in the main space that fit more people, with like big pull-out drawers to put every, like the mats, blocks, straps, all the things inside. So it's just really cozy, and people can get tea and like really take care of themselves and nurture themselves. And I invite them in my space. And I also just have this open door policy. Like if you're suffering, if there's something happening to you, like breakups, whatever, like just text me, and like you can come over and just stay over a night, be in the mountains, like, I just want to be a refuge for people.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's my mission. And so, like, Sanskrit, really trying to educate people how to read and write in Sanskrit so that they can go to the sutras, and they pull up the sutras and they're like, okay, I'm going to read this sutra, right? Say, like, I turn to Viparyoyo, right? Reading this in Sanskrit first.
For those of you who are not watching but are listening, she's like putting up the book so we can see the actual. Oh, Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Swami Satchidananda. Oh, one of my favorites.
Interesting. This was your teacher, and this
Yes.
is what we're using for the sutras. I love his commentary on it. And what's really cool is that it's just a compilation by I'm guessing his students and the people that were in his community that just put together his, free flowing lectures on the Yoga Sutras. So he didn't really write this. This is what he orally passed down.
You are correct, 100%. I love that you saw that in the book.
Yeah, it's
Like,
really beautiful. So
can I share
can I
something
read?
real
And
quick?
yes, please.
Like just based on everything you said, I know we also like don't have too much more time left, but I want to like just
I have enough time, by the way. I can go over a little.
I know, but I don't know if you got something going on still,
Oh,
Rod. I don't know if you.
I'll stretch it a little.
All right,
I'll
cool.
stretch.
So, but there was something that you made me really think of. Like basically why like I like everything that you say, and like I think a part of the reason why we connected so well is like you're like you're like a radical Libra in a way. Like you're a radical in an Aries way, like you said. It's all in the first house. For those of you that don't know, there's a relationship between the first house and Aries, and then also you might not know about Aries, but regardless, like if you hear the texture of the conversation, that's Aries, where it's like, like there are challenges, like, and I'm gonna point out the challenges, and I'm gonna confront those challenges, and then I think the hardest thing that I've been wrestling with is like, in the grander world scheme, we have all this conflict, and people are like, well, why are we at war with this country, or why are we beefing with these people? Why don't we like these immigrants, or why don't we like this? Why don't we like this? And it's like, well, why don't you like your sister? Why don't you like your mom? Why don't you like your coworkers? It's like,
Yes,
you
yes,
know, and and
yes.
and like she mentioned it in the beginning of the conversation, to like more directly answer your question to Rada was like, just the way that she is. She's a radical Libra, where it's like she can't help but consider others. Like you can't, you're like, even in the way that you think about it, it's almost like, how can you not consider others? Like, why would you, when things go wrong as a studio manager, why would you immediately just turn to someone and be like, oh, you just screwed everything up, didn't you? And I know the places he's talking about, but it's also representative of our culture. You're just a failure. Like why can't you control your lust? Why can't you control your temperature? Why can't you control your appetite? Why can't you control this? And it's like, well, we live in this whole system that institutionalizes and we're in a pressure cooker of lust and of lack of self-control and of pleasure seeking. And so when I was thinking about assimilation and just like how what I think the goal of this podcast is like, I'm on a Mac. Mac was created in the West. Like, you know what I mean? We're having this conversation. I'm wearing, like everything that all of my livelihood in a way is like connected to the West and the Western culture, and especially like Black American Western culture, for example, and all this kind of stuff. But what we're trying to say is underneath it all is still the same. Like all of these cultures, it's almost like flowers on a tree, but like the root is the same. And like, and I think that's what yoga represents. That's why it's able to be taught to so many people. I would even say like in this age, it's advised that everybody learns more of like the spiritual practices rather than just like the kingly people or whatever, and just like the rulers. And so Vinita certainly represents that. Like, if this is that time where everyone is meant to be taught, then the hierarchical system doesn't make sense. It's like water. It's now it's like counterproductive in a way. The hierarchy, the quote unquote hierarchy, is respect. Like, Sanskrit, I don't. I respect that. These asanas, and there's that respect that allows you to be a good student, quote unquote. But sort of like your energy of being like, like I see you as an equal. Like it's impossible for you not to. It's, when you look at others, you say like, you respect the differences. You respect how you're unique and non-replicatable in a way. But at the same time, like, because that is true, because you're so individualistic and so powerfully individual, like how is hampering that going to be beneficial to this organization? And since you feel that inherently, and like, since from an astrological point of view, like you have so much first house energy, so like you're also forced to see things that way. You can see like, okay, if I respect Quentin and I respect Kat and I respect Max and I respect all these different people's autonomy and empower them and say, how am I treating myself in relationship to them? Because like you said, it's all about relationships. It's like our effort and our attitude impacts the whole. And, you have this beautiful capacity, backed also by this, exemplified by your strength training. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're when people think of yoga instructor, they usually don't think of bodybuilder. Like that's almost always antithetical in a way. But you do embody that strength of like, okay, it takes a lot of strength too to like we say, to not fight, to represent that energy of cohesiveness and collaboration. And that's what we desperately need in this time. It's like, on one front, it's like there isn't a quote unquote, in this game of life, there is at times an opponent or like you said, demons or, but it's also an external manifestation of what's inside of us. Like, what is stopping me from building these bridges? What is stopping me? Like, for me, it's like, I'm a lover boy. I'm a relationship dude. Like, in that way, in that regard, it's like, what's keeping me from having this more fulfilling aspect? Well, why is she yelling at me? Why am I having this experience? Oh no, I did indulge in this action, or maybe I did entertain a little bit too much aggression in my thought process, and then they felt it somehow, and then it got transmuted to them. And I think this personal responsibility is like fundamental in yoga. I mean, it's like it's developing a sadhana, developing like this sense of purpose, developing like the identifying your purpose is very much an individualistic thing. But anyways, yeah, no, I just wanted to say like, yeah, it's very interesting to hear you kind of share about your story and what drives you, because it does resonate. Like we are on a mission. Like there is love that needs to flow, but there is also a mission, and there's sort of parallel tracks. I think the masculine and the feminine sort of like that parallel track in life where, um, in order for love to flow, like, you know, there does need to be this energy to kind of combat those systems that are preventing it. And I think you represent like the courage that it takes to kind of take that step forward. But it is really, yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to share that.
The necessity of the time too. I
Yeah.
think like,
Mhm.
you know, when you watch the trajectory of yoga in the Western culture, you know, I guess it basically it kind of started with Vivekananda coming over. That's when it started, and then Yogananda. But really, like this, what we're seeing now was very much the movement of the gurus that came over in the '60s and really taught it. And for the record, when Swami Satchidananda brought this over and was teaching it, he was ridiculed. They were like, "Why are you teaching it to those dirty Westerners? Like, they don't
Mhm.
understand this. They're not going to be able to get it." Like, but he saw a need. He was like, you know what? They're hungry and they want this and they're open. And so I'm going to bring it to the people who are hungry and open and want it. And so we had, you know, originally it was very much based in like these spiritual philosophical traditions. Then somewhere in like, you know, we made it through the 80s and into the 90s. And then it started to pick up, right? And all of a sudden it became popular and there was like this whole aura around it. And then you start having like rock star teachers and you start having like rock star kirtanists and all this kind of mythos around it. And then through that mythos, then it became like corporate, right? Because people wanted to like reproduce it, reproduce it, reproduce it. So we've now had like this corporate system where like we want to be able to make money and create these structures to reproduce it. And now I think there's a big movement. We're not there yet. I don't think we've reached the pinnacle of the corporate studio. They're still really very popular and they're really doing a lot of like work and again bringing a lot of people into yoga that would not necessarily come through the channels that we have provided.
Right.
However, I think particularly with the younger generation, you guys are not into the bullshit of the colonial mindset. Like you're over it. No, done. We're not interested in it. And so anytime that we're seeing that white colonialism, that white oppression, that white supremacist, like, and I'm not talking about the color of your skin, I'm talking about attitudes
Yeah.
and
Attitude.
beliefs and policies.
Spiritual warfare.
Yeah, it is just not what you're interested in. And so I think it's so cool that you're not going back and becoming hippies again. That's not what you want to be either. You know, you're not like, let's drop out of the system and just go like, that kind of thing. But what we are saying is, particularly when people are so starved for community and connection, I love what you're saying about providing community once again and touch points. And so we talk a lot about like, technology. We know the AI is coming. We know the AI, all of a sudden people are having AI best friends. They're AI therapists. People are talking to AI more than they're talking to people. And so the fact that you are taking this world of yoga and saying, no, this is a personal thing. Don't go learn AI yoga from AI. Right? Yes, they can teach you like this structured thing, but really it's about community coming, sitting with us, being in the space. It's about being in nature. It's about, being in tune with who you are. And that's really the essence of yoga, right? Is coming back into that. I mean, that is yoga. Yoga is not, can I do a cool posture? Yoga is self-realization, right? Realizing who you are again. And so you can't do that without the philosophy. You can't do that without the teachings. You can't do that without that's why the Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, those things are really important because they're the structure that tells you how to live so that you can experience this thing. The physical postures are just so that you have a body so you can comfortably sit in meditation. That's it. Right? So that when you're sitting in meditation, you're not disturbed by the pain and the aches and the weirdness and the illness of the body, so that the body disappears so that then you can just be in meditation. So I love that you're God, you guys are
Well
so
said, well said.
inspirational. I have to say, like, I'm so lit up by
I'm so lit up.
millennials in the world right now. You guys are like really just, I don't know. Every time I have a conversation with like an enlightened millennial, I'm so excited.
You're so,
I have
you're
a lot of hope.
great. Yes, yes. And you're just so eloquent. I love the way that both of you speak. And one thing that I wanted to name is that spiritual warfare, right? Just going back to the lust and the aggression, right? We are hungry. We're hungry on purpose, right? So it's not this like Ravana kind of energy. It's not like this like demonic kind of energy. It's hunger for like the Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna telling Arjuna to go to battle against their own, family members because it's not right, right? That
Yeah.
is his dharma. And so, like, when we're in this space of aggression, yes, I am, because we are doing wrong by people. We're doing wrong. And so, that has to be that spiritual warfare. I'm done with it. It's like these subtle jabs. I can't. If you want to play that game, we might. The problem is we have to drop to that level to play the game. Like, war must happen. If you're going to be at war, war actually is an important part of our process as human beings
Hmm.
to get rid of the things that are no longer serving us. If somebody is so stubborn that they just want to be at war, that is where we're at then. If you don't want to speak, I can use my throat. If you I'm not going to, physically harm you, but I can use my throat. And that's like where,
Yeah.
like this trauma kind of informed yoga and all that. Trauma is when you get hit on the body, right? So it is our part of our yogic journey to unravel and not look at trauma as something that is coming from the voice, but we can always turn and flip the narrative, like pratyaksha bhavanam, switching a negative into a positive, right? That is juice, that is essence, that is tapasya. That is what, putting austerities in heat when you're in the sauna, when you're physically doing it, when you're in the gym, that is tapas. You're burning, because the only way through is through comes from the Bhagavad Gita, right? The only way through is through. So like using the body as a vehicle, the gross matter, and just taking Sankhya philosophy, right? We're here from consciousness down into matter and matter back into consciousness, and energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's only transformed. So how can we use this negativity and transform it? And what's really beautiful is that in the story of the Ramayana, Ravana is a yogi too.
Yep.
And Ravana knows
Yep.
his role. He
Knows the
knows his
Vedas, knows
purpose
everything.
to do.
Yes,
Because
yes.
without the catalyst, there isn't the resurgence. So he very much knows at the end of the story that he is the demonic yogi that is there for the purpose of change, for it to really happen. And so he's good. There's like so much goodness in his demonices, like in his energy, right? Like it's the thing that transforms the thing into the next generation. And that's what evolution is the part
Yep.
that is embodied that must be destroyed. It has to be embodied for the person of good to leap over, to
100%.
transform it, and to bring with it. So I love that story so much. Like the Ramayana is like each of the stories is just quantum physics. Like they're embodying a piece of quantum physics, right? That's what Sanskrit is
Oh,
quantum physics.
yes, yes, it is.
It's crazy. We were just talking about this. Like that was the book I was reading like earlier on, and I would bring up like different things. And I'm like, oh, this is so hard. Oh, this is so cool. And you know what's interesting too about the Ramayana is the depth of love. Like the way that they loved each other, the way they showed respect towards each other was like. I never thought to like spin her on my mom 3 times, and then like drop to her knees and be like, please just give me some dust off of your toes, like you know what I mean? Like I'll just take, you know what I mean? Like, like just like that, the level of love and appreciation and like just seeing the God, like seeing God in so many different ways and forms, and really like what does that mean and how do you carry yourself? And even Rama, like the way that Rama respectfully struck down Ravana, he took Ravana, prepare to die. Like, there was no like, I'm not coming here in the middle of the night to like inject you with something and kill you, like man to man, like face to face. I'm not scared, and I think that that is so empowering for us. Like, I'll get a call from this bill or this person's got issues with me, and I just want to be like, I don't want to deal with that. And then that story is very much just like don't turn like I told Rada this example before, but just repeat. It's like the worst thing you can do in jujitsu is do this when an enemy comes, is turn your back and like cower in fear, and then now they got your back. Like it's easy to get you in a choke. It's easy to just harm you without you even seeing. It's like you always want to turn and face, and like even if it's hard, even if they're scary, even if like they're immortal, and they have this boon from God, and this is powerful yogi, or it's the Rothschilds, or whatever example you want to use. It's like a person in real life. It's like, but we're small. We're the small axe. Like Bob Marley says, he's like, you might be the big tree, but we're the small axe sharpened to cut you down and like top us that constant, that friction. Even Ganesh, for example, like he removes obstacles, but then places them in your way on purpose, like to guide you in the right direction. So. That was beautifully said. And interestingly, you're the one who talks eloquently. Like, I know Ron and I, we speak nice, but like you were just going. I was like, you should podcast every day. you know,
Yeah.
like
Oh my gosh. When you told me last night, I was like, let's send it. I know we're in good hands. Like, we're in such good hands. Gosh,
yeah.
the way you tell stories, that axe and the cutting the tree, I can see it. I can see it. And what's really interesting, my little cousin was here visiting me for a week, and she said something about shooters and dodgers. So we had this conversation. We're on our way back from Ned after getting pizza, and she said something about shooters and dodgers. Like, who in your life? And we just kept kind of like listing people and like talking about who's a shooter and who's a dodger. And I was like, what is this? Like, what does that mean? And that's exactly what you're saying. Is like there's dodgers in life, but there's shooters in life, and there two can be good. But the thing is, the dodging gets us nowhere, right? Like
Mm.
it honestly, it's but it could. The more you dodge, it exhausts the shooter, right? So it's an interesting dynamic. What do you think about
100%.
that? Like, I think that
Kind of makes me think about like just karma, like people dodging their karma, right? Like you
yeah,
can, if yeah, you can put it off.
yeah,
You can continue to put it off and not learn the lesson. But guess what? You keep that going, then you're gonna, I mean, you don't get to not learn the lesson. You're just gonna keep coming back to you. But there are people who are like, even me, sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is not a lesson I'm probably gonna get this time around.
yeah. I think it's
I don't wanna do this one.
And some I feel like are meant to dodge, right? Like you're like, okay, like that sutra. I'm trying to remember it. I think it's 2.33. It's like treat
Mm.
people who are in joy
Yeah,
with kindness and contentment.
Locks and keys, yeah.
lots of
Yes, the
keys.
locks and keys. And the one that are, like the evildoers, treat them with like equanimity or like just dissociation. Like don't like actually dodge those things. Like because it's like, there's a story in the Pancha Tantras where there's like a monkey and there's a crocodile in the river. And the crocodile is like swimming across, or it's a frog, my bad. There's a frog, something like that, and maybe it's the frog and the scorpion. Yeah, it's the frog and the scorpion. There's a scorpion on the banks, and the scorpion's like, hey, can I cross the river? Can I hop on your back and cross the river? And the frog's like, you're a scorpion. You're just going to sting me, and we're both going to drown. The scorpion's like, no, I won't do that. Like, that's not about me. I just want to ride, right? And so if the scorpion gets on the frog's back, and they're halfway through the river, and the scorpion stings him, and they both are on their way drowning, and the frog goes, why did you do that? I thought you said that you weren't going to do that. And he's like, I don't know what's in my nature. Right? So it's just
Kind of goes back to also Maya Angelou, right? Like, believe people. The first time they tell you who they are, believe them. Like
Believe
the
it.
scorpion, you knew who the scorpion was, but
believe it,
right?
right? Your intuition was correct.
Yeah.
And then there was that thing that you said about karma, like dodging it, right? There's
Mm.
this Sanskrit sutra that I want to share with you guys. It's Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janane Jatare Shayanam. So that means is like if you'll go through undergoing the pangs of birth again and again, passing through the thrones of death again and again, lying in the mother's womb over and over again. The process of samsara is hard to cross over. Save me from it soon, O merciful Lord. It's like if you don't face your karma, you'll be born again, and then you'll be in the mother's womb again, then you'll come online again, and if you don't face it then again you're born again. So
Yeah.
it's like save me from this, O Lord, is like, okay, you have to do the work, you have to face your karma, otherwise you're born again and lying in the mother's womb again, and then coming out crying again. Like here we are again. But
That's why, like, so often, I think that Quentin and I have talked about this before, is like when you look at everything in that sense, then nothing becomes personal and it's not anymore about the people or the things around you because everything is just there to serve you and everyone is there to serve you. And so when you have something like your situation at Swan Yoga or Black Swan, what is it called?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Black Swan.
Black Swan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, then it no longer becomes about them. You're just
Right.
like, oh, this was just my lesson to the catalyst that needed me to move. And
Yeah.
it really has nothing to do with them. It was just source creating
Sure.
this situation so that I could learn my lesson. And sometimes, like, these individual souls, I often think like, when we're up there and we're trying to figure out what we're going to work on and we're all sitting around being like, okay, I'm going to go down and I'm going to be this and you're going to be this and we're going to be this and let's all, and what do you want to work on and what do I want to work on and what do we got to get through? The ones who are willing to cause you the most pain are probably the ones that love you the most because they're the ones who are signing up and saying, you know what, I'm going to go down and I'm going to be that Ravana. I'm going to be that energy for you that is going to cause you a lot of pain, and you're really going to hate me for it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to be hated by you in order for you to learn the lesson, and that's how much I love you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like when you look at it like that, then all of a sudden these people who are like these villains in your life all of a
Right.
sudden become like, oh my gosh, they are like my greatest fans. They are the people who love me more than anything because they're the ones who are willing to do the hard thing to make sure that I make it through and I get what I need to get in this lifetime
Mm-hmm.
and learn that lesson. It's so powerful and really beautiful when you start to just like shift your whole perspective on it. And then all of a sudden life is really beautiful because
Yeah.
you're like,
All of a sudden,
oh, everybody's
that's
just here.
so true.
Here
Yeah.
is my fan club to help me on this path to be, get into that greatest place.
And the wrongdoing, those were my biggest fan club. Like, I like they were my best friends at one point, and I felt their love and I knew that they loved me. And I think this was just a drop kick from the universe. Like one of my favorite teachers from, that institution messaged me on IG and she was like, this is a drop kick from the universe. I wasn't meant to be there. Everyone knew that, and it was time for me to go. And I knew it was time for me to go. It just happened 2 months prior to when I decided I wanted to go. So it was just like,
The
let's
universe is
see.
like, not so fast. This is going to happen on my terms, not on yours.
Yes, and it was supposed to because the publicity that I got from that was the thing that I needed. The
Mm,
Ganesh that I saw on the wall was the thing that I needed in
mm,
order for this mission to be bigger. Like it was even bigger by the hands of God, right? Like so then I didn't need to market anything, Like people were upset, enraged. Okay, I'm supporting V. I'm going to go sign up for her yoga teacher training. I wanted to learn more. I loved learning from her in class. Then that click, that realization. So everything was God's doing. Like, no, like I know it. I feel it. I've seen it, like in visions. And then the prophetic thing, like, I was reading this stuff about the seer and that we are all just, like, the blind prophet. Like, do you feel that prophets, seers, and seeresses belong to religion only? No. Can you believe that the future can be seen? And so then it goes on to like talk about all of these different people who have seen the future, and have documented it and are documented here. And I'm so curious to like research about these people. But one's from Bulgaria. There's just so much, right? It's the drishti. It's like being the seer. And that's what I've noticed is that more and more I uncover my path, the more that I have foresight as to what's coming in the future. And the more that I can actually play out the dharma that is like leading up to that future. So it's like, how much can I get out of my own way on
mm,
the process of becoming who I'm supposed to really be? Because
mm,
God is giving me the passage and the information of where that is, whether that's my own Ishta Devata, right? Like my own inner Ishvara Pranidhana, and like seeing that as like all of us. And now that I know that, everyone is equal to me, right? Like I'm like, okay, so we all have this
yep,
power and we're just all the avatars, right? And that's why the 10th avatar, we've gone through 9 avatars. We're in our birth. So we had Buddha as the last avatar, the Dasha-avatar. And I'm reading this book from 1975, and it's talking about the avatar and how his, like, it's like a seed of conception. So we went into the Matsya, the fish. It's just evolution. It starts with the fish. Then we went into the amphibian, Kurma. It was the second variation in the second avatar. Then Varaha. This, like, why was I so obsessed with this? Because I was supposed to discover that we were all the avatar, right? In
The avatar.
form. And so I had
Yeah.
this class with me dance, right?
So, yeah.
Sorry, we were gonna
I
say.
don't I get that, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Avatar, yeah, like that's such a good. I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
avatar. Ava means to descend. Atari means to transverse or swim across the ocean of, which is what we are. We're all embodiments of Vishnu in preservation. And the more that we practice yoga, the more we preserve this energy so that we are in this lifetime uncovering and becoming, like, samadhi is supposed to be part of our lifetime. And when we attain that and we're seeing the gifts and the boons, we have a fall from grace, just like Ram Dass talked about, right? Like, interesting how you were speaking to, like, yoga becoming famous in the 70s and the 80s, and it's like these people that had a public platform, like Ram Dass going to Harvard. He used his public platform to get yoga over here through Neem Karli Baba, and then of course everyone that practiced under, like, that branch, like, was all white, you know. And so they used, in essence, they kind of used their white bodiness, their male white bodiness in females too, to, like, bring it here. And so there's, like, that justice. And also now it's like the surgence of, I'm seeing more black and brown bodies rising, right? It's like, oh, this is our nature. Like, this is what we've grown up with, and we can do it too. Technology is getting to the point where Instagram and all the things, like, if you do the work and you put it in, it's actually freeing us. As much as it is making us obsessed with it, there it is, the double-edged sword again. It's also the thing that's freeing so many black and brown bodies. And it's getting the message across, and people are transversing that kind of, like, they're descending into that higher state. So 10th avatar of Vishnu, we're there, right? It's Kalki. It's the horse avatar version of it. So we went from the amphibians, the fish, the amphibians, the boar, the mammals, into the dwarf, which is like the Neanderthal era when we were little people. And then that went into Parusharama, who was the farmer. And then when we started farming, right, if you guys have read Sapiens, like, the boom of humanity happened because of grain and being, you know, able to, like, create a system that gets food to people quickly so that we could focus our energy somewhere else. And then that boom led into Krishna arriving. Then we get the Bhagavad Gita, and then Rama, and then we get this enlightenment period, and then we get Buddha. And so those 9 stages, and then the last one is Kalki, is supposed to come. They said, some of the Puranic readings said 2026. So it's interesting that the Avatar, the last Airbender, Avatar is really how you say it. But
Yeah.
then Fire and Ash came out, and then we're here in this, like, evolution of Aquarius, this new age. I don't know. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that there is more of this, like,
Fire
in
horse
the
too.
millennials. Fire horse? Are you a
Yeah,
fire horse?
fire
The
horse
fire.
too.
This is the year of the fire horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So Kalki, and then the next one is the goat, I believe, the fire goat. So this is really interesting. I got goats on 4/4 this month, last month, just during Aries season. It's just like astrology is like, when you understand it and you unlock it, you just, like, you're, like, absorbed by it and you become it. It's like when you put a log on a fire, it starts to smell, and then, like, the impurities on the outside, right? And then the log. I was listening to the Yamas and Yamas, and this was by Deborah Adele. I just loved what she said about this. And then it just turns, like, the log becomes the flame at one point. It's so much practice goes into just sitting asana as is, just sitting there like a log, and that process just allows the fire to transform the log into fire as well. So that's what it is. That's the tapas that we're in right now.
Fire. I was gonna say that.
I feel like she just must spend all her time just, like, consuming like, wisdom. The amount of things she's quoted in, like, this just short amount of time, I'm so impressed. You were like a wisdom, like,
Yes,
yeah,
conduit.
Such a sponge.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love
I
it.
was gonna say one thing,
Gas
like
me up.
the one thing I want to say, like, kind of in closing, that I feel like sort of embodies all of this, like, and to the best of my ability, and, like, leave someone with the practice. I got this from Swami Kurunananda over at Yogaville, but she probably got it from Swami Satchidananda and further, and just do that lineage just to give credit. But when you do, and also Rama did this specifically in the story in Ramayana. Whenever you do something like we're saying, like we do have this, we are fighting in, injustice in a way, right? And we're sort of on this path, and we're trying to figure out, like, we have this mission, and like you said, there's multiple sides to us, right? I'm trying to do this, but then I also have my lower self, I have myself, all this kind of stuff, and we're talking about overcoming these obstacles, but like that Vishnu energy, right, is sort of the position of, like, I'm above it all in a way. So like what Rama did was sort of, he was like, I killed Ravana, like killed all these people. Even afterwards, he ends up having to kill a Sudra, like a commoner who was practicing yoga to become as more powerful than Rama. So he's like, basically, I killed people. This is a sin. This is regardless. Like, regardless, I must atone for this. And so even then, there's sort of that position. What I'm trying to get at is, like, even if you do the thing, you eat the cookie, you watch the porn, you do the thing, that you do whatever the thing is that you're trying not to do, that is contributing to, quote unquote, this negative energy. You have to then give yourself a consequence. And I found that is a way to not hide from the karma. It's almost a way to sort of like sit there and be like, I know what has happened. I'm okay with what has happened, and I also have the understanding that, like, that if I don't do something, something's gonna get done. Like, I can never run. And as Bob Marley always says, is, where are you running from? You're running and you're running and you're running away, but you can't run away from yourself. You can't run away from you, right? And so, like, for me, just like a little practice in our little life is like, and I think this is kind of known, but I'll emphasize it, is like, we know a lot of us that go to the gym, we know if we have a real crazy meal, right, a real fattening meal, whatever, we got to run it off. But you know that if you don't, it'll stay, and it'll further inhibit you. And I think this is what the lesson of karma is, and sort of this energy of trying to. There's a difference between dodging, like in jujitsu. I'll let you get my back because I want to practice getting out. I want to get the full submission in. I'll practice getting out. I'll practice, and that, because when it's fight time, like when it's really that challenging time, I won't have like that benefit of this playfulness. So when I do the thing, I think of it like that, where it's like, okay, I got to do an extra 10 minutes of pranayama. Maybe I got to do chaturanga today. Maybe I got to hold chaturanga for 30 seconds, like, you silly goose. Like, and I found personally in my own experience that helps so much. Like, and it's what you do in private that counts. God, I messed up. Like, I said I wasn't gonna do it. I did it. Like, what do I gotta do, right? And sometimes it'll just come. Boy, you gotta go.
Anita, one of the things we love to do. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Quentin. One of the
No.
things we love to do is always give our listeners like practices,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
particularly bite-sized practices. Like, what are our juicy bite-sized things that we do on a daily basis
Oh, thank you for giving this
that
context.
keeps us grounded, keeps us, in our zen, in our, flow, connected with source. So I would love to hear, like, in closing, because we're
Yeah.
about ready to run out of time. First of all, I will say we're going to include all of her connected, all of her socials and everything, so you'll be able to connect with her, because I
Yeah.
suspect somebody out there is going to be like, I want to train with her. Like, that, what? How do I get her to her teacher training?
100%.
So we'll definitely make sure that you guys have all that information and know how to reach out to her. But yeah, it kind of like, in wrapping it up, give us some of your favorite little tips and tricks that you use to just stay
Yeah.
grounded.
Ooh. So I love this practice called Soham. I am that, so that I am. Soham. And so it's really good for Vata, especially if you're feeling like, okay, I got a lot of like busyness in my mind. It's breathing in through the nose, and it's just simple, right? Into the third eye, and then letting it pass down the entire channel of the body, down into the pelvic floor, and then out back into the nose. So inhale and exhale. That's one. And then Bastrika, go for a hard run. You know, Bastrika is such a good one, especially when you're feeling that kind of like that intensity and you're like, okay, I need to burn some tapas, and you're feeling that gross, that heaviness, that denseness, that grief for something that you did in the past, right? And you're like healing, right? So the grief is stored in the lower lungs, and it's deep and it's low. And so when we breathe shallow, we encourage that stay, the stickiness, the kapha, the sleshma kapha, and it doesn't leave. And so Bastrika is that heat fire practice where it's like forceful breath in, forceful breath out, and bellows breath. It's fanning the flames of the fire. And it's the first in the package of 8 in Dr. Law's lineage that you practice, because gross is deeper, denser, harder to break through. First thing in the morning when you do Bastrika, gets the fire stoked, because what we're doing here is trying to keep that ember alive. And what sometimes it goes out, right? Like the depression dampens it. Depression can be vata, pitta, or kapha, where there's too much wind, vata, too much like kind of chala, right? Like the anxiety thoughts dampens the fire. What does it keep? What can we keep the dharana, the focus of that flame, constantly lit? Pitta, overdoing it, right? Flame can get like, we don't want it to, explode out everywhere. Like fire is like that. And then kapha.
That'd be me. That would be me. Because you haven't noticed, I just got a little bit of pitta in me.
The glasses, the perfect heart-shaped face, the straight nose, the sharp flush skin, that rasa rakta, the blood just like pulsing. Yeah, so home is great for that. Cooling breath. And then kapha, right? If there's too much kapha, like that depression is slow, lethargic, lazy, couch potato energy, right? So that's like first of all, noticing which one of those is putting out the fire, right? And so we want it to just be an ember that we're constantly feeding with ghee, right? Little bit of ghee, and that ghee is the nectar of our essence, right? That ojas, that liveliness, that nutrition. So that's what keeps us alive, is the ojas. But that's another rabbit hole for another day. So maybe we practice a little bit of Bastrika to enter the flames, shall we?
Yeah, do you want to like
Let's
cue
do it.
cue for like a minute or two, a minute of it maybe?
Yeah,
Yes.
just a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
So
it.
I love this mushti grip. Dr. Law teaches the mushti grip. So the space goes in the inside. The thumb element is space, then air, fire, water, and earth, in that order. That's how the evolutes of the elements came down onto the planet. Space started to heat and cold, created air. Air started to spark, right? That friction between hot and cold created fire. Fire became molten lava, became water. Water became substance because it's life-giving. And so like the amoebas, the tiny little microbes, multiplied in that evolution of creation, created earth. That dead matter created earth. So those are the evolutes. And we close space and wrap all of those 4 around it, because we're trying to, space sucks out fire. So if we want the elements to be coming alive, we put space in the middle to anchor them all, and then we put it down by our hips. Some people teach Bastrika upward. I just hold him down at the hips, like fists open, or thumbs down, thumbs up, fists down on the lap. And you kind of push, so you can use it as leverage in the pelvic floor to open and close into cat-cow. All right, so let's start on an exhale. Forceful inhale in. Forceful exhale out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. We'll go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Natural breath into the nose. Natural breath out through the nose.
Oh yeah.
The gunas, the qualities are all mixing, right?
That's the
So
good
so
stuff.
so
A little bit from that.
So hum, are you doing natural breathing when you're inhaling and exhaling? And then would you also recommend like maybe also signing something else? Would that also do go with affirmations or something? Like if someone else already has it in
Yes,
their
yeah.
list?
So if so means I am that, hum means that I am. So the
Mm,
inhale so is cooling. So it's, and the exhale hum is heating.
dope.
So you can feel that. It's basically moon and solar and lunar energy. And so when you're just meditating on that energy, that's a japa mantra, right? Or a
Yeah.
japa actually, because it doesn't have like vernacular with it. It doesn't have the Sanskrit sounds with it. It's not like Om Preem Kleem Chaimundaye Namaha. It's just so hum, which is the breath. So the breath is called an ajapa mantra because it's a something that you repeat but without voice, right? And it's just
Beautiful.
the sound of the ocean, sound of matter, sound of non-matter, passing back and forth through Purusha and Prakriti, the full awareness and the dissolution of the awareness into material matter.
And when you're doing the breath, I think some people automatically, when they inhale, they want to bring the energy up, but you're actually doing like the antithesis of that. So while you're inhaling, the energy is actually going down. And then
Yes.
as you're exhaling, the energy is coming back up.
Yes.
Really beautiful, like transfer of like breath and energy up and down with the so hum. It's such a beautiful practice.
Yes, because when you're breathing in, your diaphragm is pressing down, which presses the guts down. So there's like compressatory action. And then when you're exhaling, you're allowing that space. And so it's really great for digestion. They call it like diaphragmatic breathing. I don't love the term. Leslie Kaminoff, who wrote the book, this actually it's right here, this book, Yoga Anatomy, says like we're misusing diaphragmatic breath because the breath is diaphragmatic. Like so, when we're saying that, we're taking away the essence of breath itself. But I guess what they're trying to do in the yoga world is emphasize that it's happening from the diaphragm, which is a lower right resting beneath the rib cage. The rib cage.
So great.
Dude,
She's got
dude,
a sweatshirt on today
I'm
that
gonna,
has like the rib cage.
I know I
dude,
love this shirt so much.
you know so much. Like, like just listening to you, like just listening to you speak, obviously, and anybody's listening to this, yeah, please sign up for her teacher training, take her class. Like take her class. If you're
Yes.
thinking about taking my class, take her class first, then go to my class after that. But no, I'm just loving what you're saying.
You're a
Yeah,
wealth of knowledge too, my friend.
thank you,
You
thank you.
are.
Well, Rado,
So,
did,
so
did you
many
have
of our listeners maybe are not going to be in the Denver area. Do you have teachings online? Do you have a way for them to also have access to you?
Yes, that's coming soon in 2027. So I'm making
Okay.
recordings right now. What I'm really trying to launch first is Sanskrit. So Sanskrit for yoga
Wonderful.
teachers, Sanskrit 101. Just
Mm,
being able to read Sanskrit can happen. Of course, like the declensions and all of that, like Krishna, Krishnam, Krishnena, Krishnaya, like the masculine, feminine, and neuter all come later. I think that learning the alphabet can happen in a weekend. So it'll be like a 10-hour course online at VinitaBonita.com. So it's my name, VinitaBonita.com.
Oh,
And so
love that.
looking to launch more educational programs there and taking the course online. I just love containers though. It's like hard for me to offer an online thing. I have somebody flying in from Milwaukee. This is my first like out of state student. So he's flying in for the weekends and then Zooming. So you're welcome. We are welcome to Zoom, but I am going to take the 200-hour that I'm teaching right now and put it online because
Beautiful.
I'm switching to holding space for 300 hours next year. So
Excellent. Yay.
yeah, I'm ready to like. I really want to get heady, Like I want to read like,
Yeah.
Dr. Shyam Ranganathan's yoga philosophy. Like that stuff is good, rich, like just and the Bhagavad Gita, both the copies that I have, I was like, dang it, I got these copies and there's Sanskrit is completely missing. Kaya Maitreya's, Eknath Ishwaran's. I was like, how can you not put the Sanskrit in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Like let's get us the lines, right? Let's get us.
you need to talk about
I
Gita.
want to say that Swami Satchidananda's Living Gita, I want to say
Yeah.
that they have the Sanskrit, some of the
Okay.
Sanskrit
So
in there.
but I really like the way Satchidananda teaches, so I might
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, check it out.
Love
It's
his
called the
name
Living
too.
Gita.
Ananda. So good.
Mhm.
Sat,
Yeah.
the truth, chit, right? The mind, the consciousness, Ananda. It's like the last of the koshas. Ananda kosha.
Mm.
So good. Sorry, I had to put that in there. I just love
No,
your
of
name.
course.
I think we have no doubt that we're going to have you on again because
Yes.
I feel like we barely touched on all the exciting, juicy things we want to talk about. But I'm so glad we got to the intro of you so that we can reference the intro podcast. So when we have you on again, then we can really like just jump into also just more of this juiciness because you are a bright light. You are an incredible teacher. You are such a gift to this world. And really, for me personally, it's such an inspiration for where yoga is headed and where we can go with this beautiful practice. And leaders like you, teachers like you, are just really, I feel like, the future of where yoga is going. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your blessing of teaching us today.
Same.
Yeah, so
Taught
beautiful.
me so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Great
you.
sitting in your essence and your wisdom. Both of you are such amazing speakers. Like I love this. I love what we're doing here. Keep going with this. Yeah, going to impact so many lives with this. I think this is the podcast that we needed to see. And yeah, the type of people you're going to bring on.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your
Quentin,
time.
and thank you to all of you listening. We are so grateful for each and every one of you, and we will be back with you soon. Om Om.
Home. Peace, y'all.